Alright, I'm going to do a quick video on MAPxRPM, some of the data logs I've been playing with, and how that's working out for me so far. So, I'm going to jump on the coattails of Andy Whittle and some of the data that he had been crunching about 4 years ago, that he came up with, and got a guy out in Australia, Rob, to bang some code together for MegaSquirt 2 to do MAPxRPM. I did some of the initial first testing of that, and it seemed to be working pretty good. So then when that kind of ran its course and Rob kind of lost interest, I continued on plugging away and figured out how to work the source code, and was able to add MAPxRPM to my own vehicle, and got it working pretty well. So what I just want to show you here, this is your standard RPM and map graph that you would normally expect to see if you're doing your own tuning. So here you can see EGO correction. There's all these values here, RPM on the bottom, map on the left. Here's our little bubble as we're driving. So this would be like your standard speed density setup here. So it looks like I have it working really well. 100%, well, anything above 100 kPa, I think I turn EGO correction completely off, which is why everything above 100 kPa is 100 EGO correction. And then everything below probably like 1100, I think it's off. That's why you're getting some small numbers here, might be set to 1000. But yeah, you can see I'm 1%, high or low, plus or minus 1%, 1.5%, 4%, 3.5%. These are in those weird transition areas when you come off the pedal and your manifold pressure falls really low. So I'm not too terribly worried about all this stuff down here. I rarely ever get down in here. Even cruising down the freeway, we're going to be up and down in through here. So it looks like it's pulling about 1.5 to 2% fuel out in this neck of the woods, which is pretty reasonable. Let me see if I can find a plot on here. There we go. So this is running about 45 miles an hour in fourth. So yeah, I'm looking at 3% shy, 6% shy. That must have been when the motor was cold, so there's still some warm-up enrichment stuff going on. But even further down here, we're way out, pulling out 10%, 4%, 6%, 3%. I have to look into that a little bit, but majority of the table, you can see very little change in EGO correction, which is great. I think when I start getting down to these numbers down here is more of an indication my injector dead time is not 100%. It might still be too large, which is causing to be a little lean on the top and rich on the bottom. And that just could be just the way it is. This is on my old MS2 setup, so still might have to tweak with this some more, but I jumped ship. I'm on MS3 now, running my own transmission controller, plus this code I ported it over to the MS3. It seems to be working good. So here's the nutshell of the math, or the data that Andy sorted out. So you have MAPxRPM down here on your X, injector duty on the left, and you will see this creates a pretty linear line. So this must have been a RPM pole for one reason or another. Ran it up here. I think these injector duty values on the left are 2 times larger than they're supposed to be. There's no way I'm moving 95% duty. 95% of my injector fuel load, so this is probably really supposed to be like 42%, 35.5, 23.5 or so, 12. But still, you still get the idea. And you can see the AFR values on the right. I can actually probably change this to EGO correction. And you can see everything's pretty much green. You got the little blues, which is where it pulled out a bunch of fuel, which is down low. But for the most part, everything's within 1 or 2% EGO correction up across the board here, which is awesome for how well it's working. And this is pretty much the rest of the drive here. and it even fattens up real nice down to 12 to 1. I shoot for 11.8, got to 12. That was a short throttle pull. Only made it to 6 pounds of boost, 7 pounds of boost. Throttle position never really broke 52%, 3,900 RPM. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, pulse width 13.8. I have it sorted out to where it's running 1 squirt per cycle, engine cycle per channel. So that seems to be working well. Alright guys, I'm going to do a map times RPM overview on TunerStuido real quick. Engine settings, added map times RPM to our fueling algorithm options. So it still uses manifold pressure, obviously. Still uses VE table 1 as a trim table. So if you see some weirdness, you can kind of trim that out with the VE table 1. I believe it still leaves the options open for table switching and dual table and all that. It should still function with map times RPM. I just need to test it out. So VE table 1, pretty much 100% everywhere. There we go, map times RPM. So here's what we got: map times RPM on the left, VE on the right, map times RPM across the X. It's your input, and your output is VE. So the way the math works on this, because MegaSquirt is an integer, or microcontroller uses integer math, there's no floating point, none of that good stuff. So manifold pressures of, say, 52.3 kPa is actually 523. So we do, say, 2100 RPM times 5, 52.3 kPa, some big number. I'm going to do a right shift 9, which is the same as dividing by 512. I'll get into that a little bit later. So 2145. So that puts us 2145. It puts us right around in here, calculated VE of around like 88, 88.1 or 2 or something like that, which would put us on this graph here, right around in here, just south of this bubble there. That's kind of how this works. So the reason for 512 is overall your biggest number needs to stay under 32,000 because the particular 1D table interpolation is expecting a signed 16-bit value. So that means you can go negative 32,000 or positive 32,000. So if you do, for instance, say my case, 6,000 RPM times by 2,000 or 200 kPa, some huge number, divided by 512, it keeps us below 32,000, so 23,437. So a right shift works really well. This is an easy way to divide by 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so forth. Any of your base 2 numbers, you just do a right shift, and that will get your division out really quick, instead of actually having the processor going through all the machine steps to divide a number by another number. It can be pretty cumbersome and take quite a bit of time. So just doing a right shift 9 times only takes 9 machine cycles to do that, and then it stores it back into an address or memory address, what have you. So that seems to be working pretty good. So that's kind of where we're at. Do a quick video of it running here shortly. Alright guys, we're going to do a quick start, show you guys what map times RPM looks like when I run an engine. Map times RPM. Got my little meathead out here helping me out. Let's go ahead and crank it up. Fake VE should represent this
stay, fake VE would stay the same, but the actual VE current that the software uses to calculate pulse width would actually increase. So then you should see a little bit of richer mixture along with